Guys, how we doing there, Robert? See if we can put the pieces together and win a football game, huh? That's what it always is, but it's particularly that now as we enter these last two games of the year. With the senior night here, I kind of looked at that list. We've got some guys that have given a lot. So the focus is pretty narrow this week. Just figure out a way to beat UNLV. Rick, you want to start this off?
Whether it's 3-7 or 7-3, on the practice field, do you see any difference as far as the players, as far as focus?
First thing I see is the numbers. It's startling low out there. We've had just a lot of injuries, and it's very thin on that practice field, very thin, and it's noticeable. What you sense is, frustration. I mean, you've gone 5 weeks rallying each week by the end of week to mentally get ready to play a game and put yourself in a position in your mind to win a game, and then you don't win, and then you start climbing up that hill again. It's been a unique season. It's been, there's a lot of adjectives to describe it. But as I said, like right now, man, it's about just trying to win Friday night. It really is, but you asked me on the practice field, the thing I notice is different is just the numbers are really down. We have had a lot of injuries and continue to have them. Even the guys that are playing, it's tough to get everybody out there to practice. And I don't think that's uncommon. It's funny how those things kind of work together, of injuries and not winning. But I have been pleased that there really have been no knock on wood issues. I saw where Mike Riley said that at Nebraska, and obviously took a lot of heat for saying it, but he said the only issues that they've had is on Saturdays. Monday through Friday, it's been pretty good. Been proud of the players, proud of the way they've reacted, the way the coaches and players have interacted. Obviously, you're going to get killed if you say the only issues we have are on Saturday, because that's all people by right should judge you on is Saturdays. But I think that probably is the case with us a little bit. Don't put my name on that quote, though. Put Mike Riley's name on that.
How would you summarize Lamar's senior season?
Like our senior season, like all of us this year. Came in with high expectations. Hasn't gone the way he hoped it would go, like it hasn't gone the way we had hoped it would go, but has shown in typical Lamar fashion resiliency, whether we've taken him out of games, whether we've not started him in the second half of games like we did this last week, or we brought him back against Wyoming and started him in the second half. He's still out there, and he's still battling, and he's still competing. So I think it's gone probably Lamar like it's gone for our team. I think that's probably a great way to analyze the thing.
What are the chances of getting Ramel back for another year since he lost that 1 year?
Ramel Jordan, no. He actually, Brian, I believe he's redshirted already 1 year. And how that works, you have to have 2 season-ending injuries to get the 6th year. So I don't think there's any chance at all. I mean, Ramel's been a remarkable guy. I asked him today on the practice field, how much do you weigh right now? He told me 160 pounds. And I said, what's the most you've weighed? And he said, I've been in the 180s, up in the high 180s. And, he lost his mom here probably over a year ago. And, just talking about when you take that helmet off these kids, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this with you, he has had no appetite. He hasn't been able to really eat since the passing of his mom. And, you got to give him credit. He's out there against Texas A&M after coming back from a major knee injury. Obviously, what happened with his mom, he had a lot of responsibility in keeping the family together and doing things well beyond his age. Someone probably should have to do. But there he is out there, 160 pounds, and still fighting with a shoulder also. But I think, this will be it for Ramel. And he's another guy, I think, Van, that you put in that senior class why it's so important for us to go out there and win this football game Friday night. You know, right now we're caught up in how this season right now is going. But in the bigger picture of things, you got to take a step back a little bit and just look what these kids have contributed, and certainly Lamar's Ramel is one of them.
There's absolutely no shot because, you know, he seems to think that he might be able to get that.
Well, I don't want to. I haven't even heard that. My first impression of that, I'd probably rather talk to compliance before I give you an official status on that. But the way I understand that, you have to have had 2 season-ending injuries to apply for a 6th year. You know, it's kind of why they give you the 5th year, is because if you have 1 season-ending injury, you'll get that back. But to get 2, you have to have this. You have to get the 6th. You have to have 2.
Coach, when your players walked out on the field, whether it be on the night before or during the game, and looked up and said, "Wow," were they in awe of the premises? Does it do that to a visiting player to see that sight?
Well, to answer your question from last week, they did have some pretty highly recruited players on that team, and that was confirmed. You're talking about in College Station?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? It was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. You know, it was 100,000 people there for the New Mexico game. Certainly that stadium has changed a lot. Even since I took the team there in 2001, the Notre Dame team down there, they've got all the bells and whistles. And it's an interesting dynamic. You know, the Corps of Cadets, the Aggie Band, which is a military band, and kind of mixing that with the Southeastern Conference flair of lights flashing and music pumped in and everything kind of amped up. But at the end of the day, I think what was, I think eye-opening was just the overall talent of their team. They are, you know, you can talk about Power 5 teams, but then you take the A&Ms and some of the elite of the elite. You know, it was pretty impressive across the board.
Coach, is the gap between the Power 5 and us, is it that big? And is the only way we can maybe equalize this by going after great junior college transfers to be able to maybe come close to that gap?
Well, let me answer that by saying there's a gap between the lower division Power 5 and the upper division Power 5. You know, when you say Power 5, there's a lot of teams in there, right? You can go from Kansas to Oklahoma in the same league. You know, the elite, I mean, there's a huge gap starting financially. I mean, if we want to go through that whole thing and just look at the amount of money, just start with that. So I think it's kind of a conversation that's becoming more and more distant as time goes, because the money spent becomes a larger gap. And that's what, it's kind of a runaway train now. I mean, you can't even compare it. But there are teams in the bottom part of those conferences where the gap's not as big. But when you start talking about the Texas A&Ms, and you start talking about the Oklahomas and the Ohio States and the Michigan, I mean, there's no sense even having that conversation. You know, I think the conversation to me, and now's not the place, I'm just trying to make a first down against UNLV right now, right, and hold on to the ball, becomes, is there a division even amongst the Power 5 where you take those top 40 and say, okay, this is an elite, different deal here. You know, even though the other ones are getting the TV revenue, this is a whole other animal here. And then those 40 go off and they play in their world, you know, and then the next 100 play in their world. So the conversation is way beyond Albuquerque, New Mexico right now. But we should have played better. We should have competed better. We shouldn't have been behind like we're behind in the first half. You know, I'm not standing here saying, okay, I'm not accountable as a head coach because they have this, this, and this. I mean, we can go out there and play a lot better than we played. But, there's just different levels of all of it. And we're fighting to stay in that level in the Mountain West Conference. You know, we've got that battle before we worry about battling the Power 5s. You know, we are where we are from the standpoint of commitment to the program in the Mountain West, we're trying to we're trying to hang in there. So I mean, it's apples to oranges.
How much does that change? How much does that change from when you started? You know, last week you said you were the lowest financially in the conference. Was that different when you first started it? And what do you do?
No, well, I think the change is, and again, you know, I don't want to get into, again, we got a game Friday night, and the difference is probably what I've seen is at the Utah States, the Wyomings, Air Forces, the difference they've made in just facilities and commitment. I mean, you can't help it but stand there in Wyoming and look at that $45 million facility in the end zone. I mean, you can't help it but go to Utah State and see what they've done at Utah State. And across the board, when you look at that, you know, obviously we have not stayed abreast with any of that. So it's exactly what it was when I came here. But that's not why we turn the ball over, and that's not why we've had success within the Mountain West Conference. That's what we are. That's who we are, and that's why the margin for error is low, and that's why we need to be error-free, and we need to be a well-coached team. And right now, we don't look like that. So I mean, I don't want to muddy these two things. You know, I don't want to get into that conversation where there's any. Okay, now coach is saying because we're 3-7 and we just got our butt kicked here 5 straight weeks, coach is saying, well, that hadn't changed. You know, last year we won 9 games with the same thing. So I'm only reacting to the question I was asked and being dead honest. You know, here we are the lowest budgeted team in the Mountain West Conference. That's what it is. That isn't an excuse. That isn't, that's just what it is.
Coach, do your players still have that enthusiastic fire that mandates great performance?
We got enough fire to win this game Friday night. That's what it is. We got enough pride. We got enough fight to go win this game.
Coach, as far as how are you doing? As far as I know, when you started this thing, it was just, you know, it could wear you out because there were so many pieces you had to put together. How has this season been compared to those years? Because it's just a different animal. So like the expectations not the same and everything, you know.
It's been unique. in the archives of college football, this one has been unique. Been a lot of things that you've really had no control over. There's such a fine line with your team, the balance of things. This has been a unique season. This one's taken its toll. There's no question about that. It's been an amazing season, Leave it at that.
Do you feel like outside distractions have played a role in where you are?
No, you know, that didn't cause us to fumble the ball. You know, that didn't cause us to fumble the ball. But it's been an accumulation of just a lot of things, and you know, but what we have to do right now is what I started this with. Everybody's perspective of things changes when you win. I mean, that is the great thing about college football. If you win a game, it all changes. It all changes. And what we need to do right now is just go win a game. And, you know, just getting back to the game, which is important. You know, we do have some obstacles to overcome again this week. You know, McCordley's not going to play. Tavaka probably won't play. He has a hamstring coming out of the game. You know, on defense, you know, that safety position, we've taken so many hits there with Bijan out, Barnwell out, and Maxwell out. You know, we continue to have issues at safety. So we've got some real issues, you know, from a football standpoint we need to address, which has nothing to do with anything outside or off the field things. All right, man?
More about the safety position. You played last week. If Barnwell's still unavailable, would maybe see more Ortega?
Ortega played a lot in that game. In fact, it's the first time he's played probably as much. That's why he cramped up. He cramped up and went down late in the game. You know, we've got some options. I'm not sure we won't go with Jake Roshiller back there. You know, just because You know, Jake Rossschiller and Gergel are two guys that have just given so much to this program and are so dependable. So we've got some different options. You know, we have no choice but to have different options there because of the injuries.
I had a question.
Mhm.
You haven't talked too much about the game, and
Yeah.
UNLV, they pretty much do like you do. Well, you know, they run all the time. Like Thomas is, don't they run? They have a 1,000-yard runner.
Yeah.
They have a 700-yard runner.
Yeah.
They pass for 100 yards a game. Stanton does. So they don't do a lot of passing. So is that an advantage
Yeah,
for
I think
you?
they've changed just a little bit with Stanton now, the quarterback. He does throw it, I think, a little bit more than the other kid, number one, the freshman. You know, they had started the redshirt freshman, and he had, I believe, a concussion. And then they moved Stanton back. You know, Stanton's the transfer from Nebraska. Big, strong guy, number 4. They do throw it more. You know, I think he threw it, 33 times against BYU the other night. The thing that jumps out to me about UNLV, it's the same core of receivers since the last time we played them up in Vegas. You know, 83 Boyd, the Keys kids back, number 10, number 80, number 11 has jumped up in there. You know, they've always been a team that's had good skill guys. They have really good receivers, really good receivers. The running back is really good. You know, he's a little guy that reminds me of a Terrion Gibson style back. Their statistics, you know, they're third in the league in offense. They are up there in rushing offense. I think rushing offense, they're third in the league. But they seem to have thrown it more here these last couple weeks with Stanton in there. So they're a offense that's capable of being balanced. Schematically, they're in that A&M realm, you know, like a lot of people now, the RPOs, the spread style offense. They do play with 2 tight ends a little bit more, and we recruited both those tight ends here, and they both went to UNLV. They do play with 2 tight ends a little bit more than some of the teams we've played here down the stretch. Defensively, you know, they played a 4-3 hip 2 deep against Air Force. You know, we've seen some of that. Kent Baer's been doing this a long time. We went back and looked when he was at Washington with Tyrone Willingham. He was the defensive coordinator. They played Air Force. They played it a little bit different then. So he's got a background in a lot of different schemes against triple option. So I mean, they're a team that needs to win too. You know, they're sitting there at 4 wins. They need to win here and win in Nevada next week to get to a bowl game. I mean, this is a big game. You know, both teams need to win this game. Both teams need to find a way to win this game. Bob?
When you're suffering through a season like this, and you talk about the frustration on the practice field, the injuries, the losing streak, does it make you kind of evaluate how much longer you want to do this?
You can,
I know you're grinding away.
Yeah.
It's one practice at a time. You're looking for a first down on Friday night against UNLV, but
yeah.
you're able to take a step back and go, I don't know how much longer I want to do
No,
this.
I think you always do that. You know, isn't that human nature? I think you probably do that too, right? Like you'll have a show and all of a sudden the show didn't go the way you wanted to, and you say, what the hell am I doing this for? Why am I putting all this work into it? I mean, isn't that human nature? But again, isn't that the great thing about athletics? If you can win a game, it all comes back, and here's why we do this, and here's why we, you know, but I think honestly, when things are going bad, that's when the leadership is the most important. You know, if you're only going to be that guy when it's going good, you're enthusiastic and you're happy to be having the job you have, well, you're pretty hollow as a person. You know, you better be able to step up. You know, I get paid a lot of money to do this. There are a lot of people who'd like to be doing this. So I think every day you get up and think about all the things you have to be thankful for and how lucky you are, you know, before you take that first step out the door. You know, so you always come back to balance a little bit of just appreciation. I mean, I was very lucky to get this job, and we've had some good times here. So just when it's the bad times doesn't mean you bail out, you start blaming the budget, or you start blaming, okay, we don't have this or we don't have that. You know, I'm not that guy. I think it's always a roller coaster, and seasons are hard on coaches and players. But no, I mean, every day you find something to have success in too. You know, even though on the outside all that matters are the Saturdays. Bob, you know, back to Mike Riley's point, you know, there's a lot of little competitive things that happen each and every day that you get satisfaction out of, that if you tried to explain them to people on the outside, it sounds like you're delusional. But that's what this is. You know, that's what it is. And, you know, so no, you know, well, am I really looking old or what, man? Do I really look haggled or what is it? No, I hear you, and that's a fair question. But let us win UNLV, beat UNLV, I'll sign up for 5 more years. All right. We good, Henry? Perfect. All right, bud. All right, guys, appreciate you.